You're tuned in to Aquarium Drunkard Transmissions. I'm your host, Jason P. Woodbury. This week on the show, I'm joined by ambient hero William Basinski and his collaborator and engineer Preston Wendel. They've got two wildly divergent projects out this year. In July, they released To Feel Embraced, a collection of saxophone-laden lounge and electronica under the name Sparkle Division. And on November 13th, they released William Basinski's Lamentations, which assembles more than 40 years' worth of archival tape loops and studies from his archives. The dual albums encompass the ecstatic highs and dread-soaked lows of this strange year. I spoke with the duo in September, when it was still warm enough to take a dip in the pool, which I think William references doing. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll speak more on the other side.
Well, I've been doom scrolling, so that's pretty much
a lot of doom scrolling, but for both of us.
And I took a swim in the pool, which was really nice. I'm so lucky to have that. So that's how we cool down here when it gets too hot in the valley.
Well, you guys, this new Sparkle Division record is extremely. It's fantastic. It's a real trip, too.
Thanks.
I guess you guys spent, correct me if I'm wrong, something like 5 years working on this?
We spent a good portion of 2 years building everything and just really being into it and digging in and having a ball. Preston bringing these banging tracks into me and stuff, and then getting me all inspired to get all Mancini-esque with the strings and the this and the that and some.
Yeah, it was all written over around 2 years, just randomly kind of.
And then some things got a little bit stalled, and we
didn't feel like dropping it for a while.
Yeah, Presley got cold feet, and I felt like after this 2016 election, I wanted it to be a summer record. It's a lounge record. It's for summer. It's for lounging and cocktails, and it just didn't feel like the time to do it. And then we moved on and worked on a lot of other things, but I really liked it, and we argued about certain pieces, and I'm just like, nope, it's good, and I would play it for people and come back to it, back when we could have little pool parties and stuff, play it for people. One time my parents and my brothers and sisters were here in the summer. It was real warm, and we were in the pool, and I put it on, and they loved it. And we're all musicians in my family. My dad and mom made us all study music, and they all dug it, and everybody I played it for loved it. But at the beginning, there were friends in the music business that loved me, that were like, "Oh, Billy, be careful about your legacy," and stuff like that. I won't say who, but I was like, "Oh, fuck that," I like it. And, I used to play the sax. People don't really know that so much anymore, but I was trained on the clarinet and the saxophone, and in New York, there were many bands I played in, and that's what I did, besides doing my own work that nobody understood back then. So, I played in bands, I produced bands, and this project was like, Preston had been working for me for a year or two, just helping me with everything, running the label and the mail order, and helping me with the office and the studio, and taking care of everything while I was on tour. And I'm like, I knew he was a composer and everything. I'm like, so what are you doing? And show me stuff. And he did, and he brought in this stuff, and I pulled out my saxophone. He's like, oh yeah, let me get that mic set up. And he pulled out the big old Shure Elvis mics and got it right dialed in, luckily, because I'm a one-hit wonder. If you catch it the first time, you're going to get something. If not, you might have missed the boat. So,
right.
Especially because my chops are gone, and I haven't played in years because I have no bands to jam with anymore. So, and I'm lazy. But anyway, Preston, tell him how we met.
Well, we met at a coffee shop that I was working at, and it's the one time I've ever seen Billy in the almost 8 years now that we've been working together at a coffee shop. Period.
Do you usually drink coffee at home, William?
Yeah, I never leave the house unless I have to.
It's a good year for that to be a lifestyle, for sure.
Hello.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Billy's,
I'm agoraphobic.
So you guys met at this coffee shop. What kind of conversation did you strike up?
Well, okay. I was with my friend Ed Patuto, who used to be the director of Issue Project Room in New York, and then he took this job at the Broad in LA as the director of audience development. And we're great friends for years, and he's been a huge supporter of mine. Anyway, we were going to Venice Beach to see some friends' dance performance at the Electric Lodge right off of Abbot Kinney Boulevard. And it's a block away from this coffee shop where Preston happened to be working. And Ed wanted a cup of coffee. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to get some cigarettes at this convenience store on the corner. I'll meet you in there. He goes in. I come in and he's like, girl, that cute boy behind the counter's cruising you big time. I'm like, what? You get out of here. So I looked up and this cute big old doll had this big smile on his face and was like, is your name William? And I was like, yeah. And he said, and you make music with tape loops? So I'm like, get out of here.
Wow.
He was like, oh, I love your work so much, man. I love your work. It's so great. And so I was like, thank you. And, we went to the show. And then I couldn't stop thinking about this kid. I had a great feeling about him. And at the time, Jason, I had, I was doing my own stuff. It's 2013. I was releasing, 2062 records, and I like to get the mail order out right away to make everybody happy. And I was getting ready to go on tour, and my last assistant had, who was wonderful, Brian, had, of course, gone to graduate school. He's brilliant. And so I lost him. I didn't have anybody to take care of the mail order, and I think I just released a record. I don't remember which one it was back then, but so I thought, I told Ed, look, let's go back by that place and see if that kid's still there, because I want to ask him if he wants another part-time job to be my assistant. And so we went back, and it was dark and closed, but the light was still on, and Preston, we could see him in there counting the money in the cash register. So I knocked on the window, and it was dark outside and light in there. He couldn't really see us, and he got all like, what? And, and then he came over and saw us and waved us around to the back. So we went around to the back, and I said, oh, sorry to make you lose count. Listen, would you be interested in another part-time job? I need an assistant. And he said, oh my God, I'd be so honored.
Yeah, I tripped out.
Yeah, of course.
Tripped out.
So it was magic. And I just said, okay, give me your number. And then I got busy, and I didn't call him. And then he followed up and found my email on my website and sent me his resume. And I was like, oh, great. And it was, I knew he knew how to make good coffee, and he'd worked in offices. He knew how to garden, and he graduated from recording engineering school. So I was like, okay, you're hired. Come on over.
Yeah.
And it's been fantastic ever since. He's like my
thanks,
son.
Billy.
I love him so much. He's so talented.
Billy's my ambient father.
And,
Except
we get
not
along,
ambient. He's very much in my life.
We get along great. Unfortunately, now we live 20 miles apart. We used to live 10 minutes apart. But I was able to buy this amazing little house in the valley 2 years ago after we got kicked out of our rental house. because they were gonna sell it, and I looked for a year and the worst crap that I couldn't afford, and it was awful. And then this miracle happened, and I got this place, and I could afford it. I got it, and now we're here. So, but Preston has to go 40-mile round trip to come over here now. Then he does it. Good old boy.
Yeah. Well, so this new record, I mean, obviously you guys set a very unique mood with it.
Yeah, it's not like either of our work, which probably was what gave Preston cold feet at first. You know, he's young. But I was the executive producer, and I put my foot down and said, we're doing this.
Well, it's a unique time to release such a joyful sounding thing, you know?
Well, for God's sake, we need it this summer.
Yeah.
Well, sure. So I guess I'd love to hear a little bit more about the motivation behind it, because, you know, obviously there are understandable reasons why right now people maybe wouldn't know what to do with such an exuberant record. But at the same time, listening to it, I did find myself just sort of bowled over by it and charmed, you know, because it's like, man, it is nice to have something that doesn't feel so cataclysmic this year.
Yeah, like my next solo album, which is coming out next.
Yeah, we both we both definitely feel both vibes. I mean, like his solo album's coming out, and I'm dropping an album soon that's like pretty heavy, you know, fighting for justice kind of vibes. You know.
Yeah.
But also, you know, at the same time as, you know, getting, you know, as mourning and feeling heavy about stuff, like living life too never stops. So I don't know.
I know. God, it's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world at all hours. So have a cocktail in the lounge, honey.
Yeah.
It's a lounge record.
It's everything all the time.
Yeah. Well, you guys are joined by some friends and interesting collaborators here. The late Queen of Williamsburg, Leonora Russo.
Absolutely.
On Queenie Got Her Blues.
Yeah.
Was her take recorded over the phone?
Yes. Preston was amazing. We were sitting outside on my patio, and, you know, Leonora, like I say, she was like my Brooklyn mom, you know. She lived down the street from me. She was a very, very close friend. I helped her through the last years of her life get by. You know, her annuity was gone. She lost her husband. She lost her son. She'd gone through her annuity that was supposed to last forever. And she'd lived in this apartment for, 60 years. But she was the Queen of Williamsburg. She would get all dolled up and come down after the soap operas and go down to the street to see all the young people. And, she always wanted to go to Hollywood, but her mother wouldn't let her, and she had to get married and stuff when she was 18. And she did what she had to do, and she had her fun, but she also had a tragic life. So she was kind of like, she was a sad person, but she didn't show it. She was always, she was very bossy and charming, and always completely turned out, as the Sicilians do. They don't leave the house in a schmata. They come down all lipstick, hair, fashions, and especially Leonora. She was a style maven. And by later on in Williamsburg, when all the young people came from everywhere to be there, she would go down the afternoon and sit by one of the cafes and have a coffee and talk to people as they went by. And everyone wanted to photograph her and talk to her. And there's a couple of little short documentaries about her. You can Google her, Leonora Russo, the Queen of Williamsburg, and see what she was like, because she was always herself. Anyway, the time I was on the phone with her out here in California, she missed me terribly because we used to live a block away, in Williamsburg. And anyway, we talked all the time, and I got her to sing. Now, that song is one of her repertory. She would do it all the time. She had that one, and she had another one called Matches that she would sing, which is also very bawdy. She was very Mae West kind of bawdy. And, when she was young, she had a 52-inch bust, which she loved to brag about, and like a 16-inch waist. And man, she's like her tits stood straight up, and she was like, I had to sit sideways. I couldn't see my food. And she loved food. That was another thing she loved. She didn't drink or smoke or anything, but she liked to eat. And she was a great cook. Oh my God, she would cook for me. Forget about it. But anyway, one afternoon when Preston was at my old house, we're out on the patio where I like to sit because I could smoke out there and it's nice. And she called, and Preston had his phone, and she was fixing to sing a song on mine. And so I told him, start recording. And he did. So he recorded her from my phone onto his phone in the backyard. And then he found this 1978 recording of St. Louis Blues on YouTube, and time matched it up with Leonora and just did a couple little things to make it work. So it sounds like an old 78 record, which is just wonderful. And she was so excited about her record coming out. Unfortunately, it never came out until after she died, but I'm happy to say she died before the election last time, because that would have just killed her anyway. But anyway.
Yeah. Preston, it's been mentioned a couple times, the sort of cold feet that you got regarding this record. And I wonder, what was it that made you feel a little bit hesitant about it? And were moments like capturing that thing from Leonora, were those the sort of things that sort of made you feel like this was something you wanted to do? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the hesitance first. Sorry.
Interesting. No, that's an interesting question. Well, there was a bunch of factors involved. Part of it was that I hadn't released too much of my own music. Still, I really haven't released too much solo music. I tease singles here and there. I do different monikers and stuff. I've kind of only recently started settling down under Shania Taint. But a lot of it was at times I thought it was just Billy and I warming up, like jamming, and I was like, I didn't, he was really hyped on these songs that I thought were just kind of like maybe just jams, but he had these visions with him, and he was serious about it. So I I rode with him about it, but I also didn't. I felt also because here I am with William Basinski, the behemoth ambient lord of lords, and I'm this, young bedroom janky techno person, but so
he was nervous too about me and him.
Yeah, and like Billy mentioned earlier, like some of his, super avant-garde friends being like, what about your legacy a little bit? Because this record feels a little campy and silly, and it is undoubtedly a little campy and silly. But it's fun too, it's become a nostalgic, like fun.
It's super fun, and I am campy and silly. So that's
memory of, we both, we're both into a lot of it too. Like there's definitely some cuts on the record that I really love, and there's some cuts on the record that I don't. It's not like I hate them or anything, but they just don't hit me as hard as they were hitting Billy. But
yeah, we had differences of opinion about different tracks, and I was like, nope, it's good, trust me, I'm buying this 100%.
Yeah.
So, and then, go ahead, Preston. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. You keep going.
And, I sequenced it a lot, pretty much almost in the way we did them, really. Not exactly, but pretty close. I mean, and I'm good at that. I've never been a DJ. I don't make mixes like my partner Jamie does and like Preston does very well. His segues are killer and his mixes are awesome.
Thanks, Billy.
He's a great DJ as well. But I've never done that. People ask me, when you're doing press, everybody wants you to give them a playlist and all this stuff and all this content. It's like, what the fuck? I don't do that, okay? Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. No free content. Sorry. That would kill me. I'd have to think and no. It's not something I do. But when I'm working on a record, I know how to sequence what I'm working on. And I love the way it turned out. The B-side just gets weirder and weirder. And it's real ambient at first. And then goes through to Leonora. And then this beautiful ambient piece, tripped out Muzaki ambient denouement to Leonora's song that Preston put in there, which to me it was like Leonora died,
Yeah.
Sparkle
Yeah.
on Said Sister, so that's for her. And then we came back from a concert I did at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, what's it called? The Masonic Temple, big, beautiful venue here in LA in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And the Bug was the headliner. He had like every subwoofer in town. And
Grouper was that, right?
And Liz Harris Grouper was there, and me. And so we did this really cool show, and then we came back, and Preston pulled out this really sick beat, look, I got something new. And
this was at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. We were both lit, and I pulled out the saxophone. He got the mic in there and recorded it beautifully, caught the one-hit wonder, and bam, that last track, No Exit, forget about it.
Oh, no, you're talking about a different track.
Oh, it's the last track on the first side?
No, I can't remember the name.
It's called Slap in Your Face or something. Is that
No. We're getting all the titles mixed.
we don't even, I made up all the fucking drag queen titles for this thing. So we all had different titles, but I changed them all.
What about
executive producer
vocals
privilege?
Are used to great effect on this record. To Feel Embrace, the title track. Those are by am I saying her name right? Zelly Grana?
Shelley.
Okay.
Isn't she wonderful?
Oh yeah, they sound those parts sound incredible.
Shelley.
What was your question, Jason?
Well, I guess my question was those lyrics, "To Feel Embraced," which is repeated over and over again. Who wrote that phrase? Was that one
Shelley.
of you two, or was that
Shelley?
borrowed?
No, Shelley. Shelley is a dear friend of mine from London. I've known for about 13 or 14 years. I met her in 2003 on the island of Pantelleria with Lauren Bond and a bunch of her friends, and we were all invited to this incredible, rough and volcanic island in the middle of the Mediterranean that hardly anyone knows about. And it's super special, and all the kids were there, and Shelley was Lauren's nanny for her 2 children, and her and Shelley's 2 boys were there. They were a little bit older. They were about 12 and 13. They were all into Harry Potter at the time. And Shelley is just pure drama. She works in theater with children and stuff in London. And she has an absolutely, Shirley Bassey kind of voice and pure power and drama. And she can just emote and just improvise. And that recording is a sample from one time, maybe in 2013, when I was on tour. I was in London, and Lauren had let me stay at her beautiful little townhouse in Notting Hill. And Shelley lived nearby, and she came over, and we had some wine. And I turned on my phone, and she just started singing. And she sang all of this amazing stuff, just making up all this stuff. She's got a lot of depth and a lot of trauma in her life that she managed to bring out. And there's just so much joy and beauty in it. And so we just grabbed that one little bit for that song. And Jason, the bass on that song is an iPhone recording of a cassowary bird from an animal sanctuary in Brisbane. We were there on tour with Lawrence English. Liz Harris was there with me. And Lawrence always takes people to this wonderful animal sanctuary where he has a girlfriend that's a big old emu that is blind in one eye. And whenever you go out to this field, she'll come running up and hug Lawrence. It's so amazing. But anyway, we're walking around and there's a cassowary bird in a kind of a cage. Now they're the most avant-garde fashion birds you ever saw. They're huge, wild-looking ostrich-sized birds with a huge like beehive toenail on the top of their head, and then like electric blue face and red balls hanging off their neck, and then these black feathers and huge spikes on their legs. They're super dangerous. They can kill you. And
cassowaries?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What? You don't want to fuck with a cassowary. And
that sounds terrifying. Yeah,
it's terrifying, but they're so gorgeous. But anyway, this one was sitting in this pen along the walkway, and Liz and I walked up, and it started to get up, and it was making this noise. So I turned on my recorder on my phone, and it was making, you know how pigeons do their like, yeah. Well, I've seen like birds in Australia are wild. They're bigger and louder, and they have Australian accents. They're just, they're just insane. I saw a huge Australian hybrid pigeon in a zoo there in Sydney once that also they had these low voices. Well, this thing was sub bass, and then he was doing these clicking sounds and stuff. Anyway, I recorded it, came home. I couldn't hear it on my iPhone because I didn't know if it was there. But when I came home, I said, Preston, put this in the computer. And it came out. And he's like, oh, damn. So he sampled that cassowary bird bass sound and used it in that song and made a bass groove out of it.
It sounds like iPhones were pretty important to at least parts of this record. I mean,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
We actually here at 2062 in Music International, we use lots of garbage audio. we really do though.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like we just kind of fucking, I don't know. Like Billy will get hyped on sound and be like, oh, and we, the nature of William Basinski music, we both kind of like.
My shit's broken as shit, It's
we like crunchy stuff, We like high def stuff too.
Oh yeah, but we want it to sound really good.
Yeah.
And it was just super fun. Oh, let's put this in here and let's do that. And what if we did this? And in the one about David Bowie, the To the Stars, Major Tom, that one. Preston recorded me breaking a champagne flute on the sidewalk back by the garage where there was a little sort of like you had the stucco wall of the garage and this tiny little walkway going back to the alley and a stucco fence on the side. So got a nice big sound out of breaking this glass. Just, little things.
Yeah, yeah. You brought up the Bowie sort of ode to Bowie, and you eulogized him on For David Robert Jones from a couple of years ago too, on A Shadow in Time.
Yeah.
Are you both pretty big Bowie fans?
Well, I'm always been a huge Bowie fan.
I'm I definitely love Bowie, but he's Billy is like really super, Billy loves Bowie. I love Bowie too, but I'm just.
Preston's a lot younger than me, honey. He was born in 1990 or something.
I used to be a rocker like a lot more, and now I'm like very techno. and like electronic dance music.
He likes 70s disco now.
And I very disco too. Pretty disco.
William, what I would love to ask what your favorite Bowie record is.
Oh God, you couldn't. I have them all. It's impossible to say, but
what, Diamond Dogs?
There's so many good ones.
Man Who Ruled the World.
I grew up
can't pick a favorite.
in this, high school in the 70s and stuff. So when Ziggy Stardust and Aladdin Sane and Diamond Dogs, I mean, those three were just like, oh.
Don't get me wrong, I love
shit.
Bowie. I do really love Bowie. I of course love Bowie, and I've spent a lot of time.
He's a genius. There's so many good songs. The production's always perfect, but he changed so often that it would frustrate the hell out of us. We were just getting our looks together, and he'd go and change his look, and then we'd be like, "Oh shit! Yeah, now I've got to do that look." Anyway, yeah, no. What are you gonna do? I mean, you might expect me to say Low or something like that, which, of course, that was brilliant, and I love it. And for David Robert Jones, when Preston and I did that, when Preston was here for that, recording that piece, and all my last albums, he's been here in the studio with me. But I had these tape loops for that one. Let's just talk about this song for a minute. When I still had my studio in New York, my big studio at Arcadia, but I was living mostly in California because it kept getting more and more expensive, and I had to have more and more people living in my loft, and I didn't want to be there with them, and I had to pay some of the rent to help Jamie pay his rent out here because we'd had to move to a more expensive house, and so it was bigger and nicer, and so I just stayed out there most of the time, and then I would go back from time to time to clean and scare people and work in my studio and stuff. But anyway, one time I went back, and my roommate Reka had let this gigantic, monstrous Maine Coon cat into the house. He was like the rat cat from down at the Brooklyn Brewery, which was downstairs. And when it was cold, he'd come up the stairs. He'd get out of the warehouse and come up and wait by the door. And one time he just came in, and I was so scared. He was so big, and he just moved in. Well, anyway, wow. I thought I kept my studio and my control room locked, but I guess I didn't. And that cat got in there one time, and I had these loops hanging off of boom stands behind the console and everything. And you know how cats are with shiny little things hanging, and, he had to yank them down, chew them up, and probably peed on them. And then, I came home and found it and was like, Reka, come here. You see that? That's my work. Get that cat out of here, and you're next, bitch. Okay. But anyway, I put what was left of the chewed up loops in a takeout bin, as I do, and then I found them that when we were working on the Shadow and Time record, and so I spliced the cat chew parts off, and the first one was that amazing string melody. Now this was probably the next ones after the disintegration loops. These were hanging there, yeah. And so I was like, okay, this is good. So I said, Preston, put this. I set it up on the machine and told Preston, okay, just record this for,
We recorded that one differently than Lamentations, though. We actually just microphoned the tape machine.
Yeah, that's what we used to do, too.
The new record has Billy doing like a lot of it's like source material, but the end of the record, the last 3 or 4 tracks, the suite at the end, was we were direct line in his tape machines, and a couple tape machine performances, kind of
one live tape manipulation thing Preston recorded really well. But anyway,
we use different gear for different gear for these records.
But back to this song. So while he was recording that, I'm like, just let it run, So he's got a nice level in Ableton and letting it go, and then I go and pull out another one of these cat chewed things and cut it and splice it and bring it in. And it was one of my old saxophone loops, which I never use in anything, because I didn't really, with this music, with my work, I never really, some early work and some studies has saxophone stuff in it, but it wasn't something I wanted to pursue that much, so I didn't. I was much more interested in, as you know, in piano and strings and these kinds of sounds. But anyway, this came out sounding so cool, and it was so all right, kind of wrong with what just happened. Preston got a big shit-eating grin on his face. He was like, hell yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, it was right when Bowie passed.
Yeah, it was right after he passed away.
I think.
The week after, yeah.
It must have been.
And so we recorded that one, and then cut it in with the other one about halfway in. It just sort of pops in and stuff, and and it reminded me of, I think it's Subterraneans on the second side of Low or something. But
yeah, I can hear that for sure.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, this is for David Robert Jones.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Creators, are you tired of being paid in clicks and likes? Social media and streaming platforms help people find your work, but getting you paid is another story. Patreon is built for creators, not advertisers. Using it, you can develop a sustainable income source by offering a recurring membership to your fans. In turn, they'll get access to your exclusive community, premium content, and a chance to become active participants in the work they love. The creative system is broken. Sign up on patreon.com now. That's patreon.com, and start building the steady income stream you deserve. And now, back to Transmissions. I have to say that in addition to learning that iPhones play a much bigger role than I would have suspected, it sounds like wildlife also has factored in to things more than I expected, between the exotic birds and
we
the
love wildlife.
The tape destroying cats. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's true. You never know. God, the birds are going to come for us. We just had a leaf blower out here. We had to close the door right when we were getting started. So you never know. There's old gasoline-powered technology everywhere too. But, I don't do a lot of field recording stuff. I do record sounds when I hear them. I learned how to listen, Pauline Oliveira style, wherever I am touring or here and there. If I hear a sound or something, I'm building, making an amazing sound, or some compressor or something like that, I'll grab some of it. And
you definitely have field recordings in a lot.
Yeah,
of records.
There's field recordings in the Sparkle Division record. Preston recorded at our old house. We lived about 15 minutes from the airport, which for me, touring was amazing.
No, it was the Santa Monica airport. We lived right next to it.
Well, there's that too, but LAX, we'd hear the drones from the planes heading east when they would get up to close to their altitude and sort of change gears and stuff. Every 3 minutes, there were drones, and then there were drones from the two highways that crossed not that far from where I used to live. So Preston used some of those drones for some beats in one of the songs on Sparkle Division.
It's been so long since we've worked on it, though, that I remember a couple things here and there, but
he turned them into bass drum and shit.
Yeah, we were doing really weird shit back then. Very different than what we're doing now.
Yeah.
How did you two come to work with Henry Grimes on Oh Henry?
Oh, Henry's wonderful. I met...
Rest in peace, Henry.
Yeah. And
Leonora.
I met Henry and Margaret Davis Grimes at the Empty Bottle in Chicago, legendary music bar that has, I think, shows every night of the year except Christmas or something. And they booked me in like early touring days for me, maybe 2004 or something. It was kind of like, when Henry was rediscovered after everyone thought he was dead, when the article came out by the journalist that found him and everything, and everybody in New York, Margaret and all the musicians in New York gathered around and got him a bass, olive oil, and sent it to him at his SRO in LA, and he started practicing again and then got his chops back together, and then they brought him to New York and he and Margaret got married. Anyway, he started touring with a bunch of cool people after that. But this gig was Henry solo on his bass, and I opened for him doing a laptop thing. And the green room is downstairs, and my friend Myra Morrow, who I've known for years since my answering service days in New York when I was about 22, is this beautiful black charmer, just fantastic. She used to be a model in the 70s and lived in Europe for many years and stuff, and now she's back in Chicago where she grew up. But of course, Myra was there, and she was like the ambassador downstairs. And just now, Henry is notoriously quiet. He is like just a Zen monk,
Yeah.
Margaret handles all the talking and everything, and she's just absolutely darling. But Myra just took over and entertained, as she's trained to do. And we all just were charmed, and Henry, smiled, and he even talked a little bit. But we all exchanged numbers and stayed in touch. We all fell in love with each other. Now, years later, when we're doing this, that one track, I was like, this track is really cool. I was like, I'm doing this slow saxophone, and Preston's got this laid back thing going on. And then all of a sudden it bangs into footwork and stuff. And I'm playing against that. And I just thought, well, this is really cool, but there's no bass in it. So,
right.
So I thought of Henry. And by the way, I want to say his concert at the Empty Bottle, oh my God, it was like Stockhausen with an orchestra, just him on the bass. It was just mind-boggling, Let's make sure that gets in there.
Yeah.
He's a fucking genius and just a bodhisattva. So anyway, I sent an MP3 to Margaret, and they listened to it, and Margaret said it's in the press release, a lot of babies going to be born to that one, honey. And she's like, Henry would like to do it. And so, he rehearsed it for a week or so, and we asked him, well, do you have a favorite studio you like? And, we'll get you in there, and we'll pick you up in a black car and take you there and pay you the whatever fee you want, and pay the studio and get you some food and whatever you need. And so they picked their favorite guys in Brooklyn, and we got it all taken together. The guys did a great job, and they sent us back the stems. Henry did 5 takes, all different styles. And, Preston dug through all that stuff and banged that all together note by note. And it's just amazing. It turned out so beautiful.
Thanks, Billy.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
Thank you.
I'd love to ask a little bit about, the other records that you guys have coming out this year. Preston, first and foremost, you mentioned that what you're working on is a little bit heavier. When do you think that's going to come out? And can you tell me a little bit about the record that you're working on?
Sure. Yeah. So my project is called Shania Taint, and I kind of do a variety of I guess dance music styles. It's pretty much all electronic, ranging from anywhere to gabber and hardcore, jungle, techno, house, funk, disco. So but I'm kind of trying to prepare this faster, a little nittier, grittier. I'm trying to actually get a little cassette out, because I have these little backstock cassettes. It'll be a really small release, 20 copies. But I'm trying to get it out by the next Bandcamp day. We'll see. And I've got a couple things that I'm trying to, how do you say, I've got this hardcore thing coming out, and then I've got some funky stuff that, some tracks that are sitting there that I want to keep going with too. I definitely wouldn't say that I do one style, but dancing is usually at the forefront. And I've been talking to some of my friends who listen to my music a lot, and I had these cassettes sitting there, so I was like, "What do you guys want first? You want some funky stuff, or you want some hardcore?" And hardcore actually won the vote. It was about neck and neck.
Yeah.
But I could never settle down and make one kind of music, and I feel like that's part of why Billy and I are allowed. Not allowed, but we're able to just sink into all sorts of different shit together. I mean, all the ambient and orchestral and tape loop stuff that Billy's been doing since we've known each other, we've definitely been, right there with him, up in it. And it's very much his music. I mean, I've had the honor of playing playing synths on a couple of the records too, or and mixing and talking about production and
he knows what I like. He's like my second set of arms and second brain.
Yeah,
my pretty pony, I call him.
And Billy's my guardian angel, so.
Well, yeah. Well, so then Preston, what did you contribute on Lamentations, the forthcoming William Basinski album? What were you doing in studio for most of that one?
For most of this one, it was mostly source material, except for the whole last,
Preston engineered the whole thing.
Thanks, B. I get most of it was material that had already been recorded, except for the last the
C and D side.
Yeah, the C and the D side of the record, which I had the pleasure of recording and watching Billy fucking
manipulate the tape,
literally do a live tape loop performance and DJ his crusty tape loops and make a fucking sick ass thing. And I turned the gain up on the preamp. He had recently gotten this nice universal audio thing, and I just cranked that thing and it sounds so good. Yeah. But that's so I actually was I didn't really do a whole. This record came together really quickly, actually. He had most of this record sequenced, and then one day he was like, let's fuck around. And then he was doing sick ass shit. We started tracking, and that became the whole end of the record.
Right, the last side. Yeah. The loops for this record, Jason, the first, let's say,
it wasn't as laborious as a lot of some of the other records, which were really dense, big, big sessions with lots of audio.
Yeah,
tons of audio,
and lots of.
This was not like
nitpicking and pulling things in and out, and this and that and the other thing. A lot of extracting, but this one was kind of like an archival dig, a deep archival dig. The loops go back to 78 or 79 in San Francisco. The piano loop on Tierville, for example, which is from the period of some of Melancholia, variations for piano and tape, variations, a movement in Chrome Primitive. But I know it's an early one because there's a click in it. And when I first started making loops, I didn't know you were supposed to cut the loop on a 45-degree angle, so you got a little crossfade in there on your splice. And I would just cut them with scissors and tape them together straight up and down, and that causes a click. And I didn't like that. So a lot of these loops on the drone loops and all this sort of stuff were deep archive dig, and they were pretty much reject loops. There was stuff nope. They didn't get picked. But then last summer, thinking about 3 years of this crap we've been going through and just the planet falling to pieces and all this crazy bullshit going on, I was just like, ugly record. Shit needs to be said. And broken. It's all broken.
Yeah.
Let's just show it. Let's just fucking show it, So, so I got that together, and that Preston didn't know about it. And
that was also much newer, like even though these records are coming out this year, Sparkle Division we wrote a very long time ago. And Lamentations, even though he wrote that a really long time ago, that whole record came together this year.
Yeah. But
I think, right?
But well,
maybe at the end of last year.
Remember last summer, late last summer,
that's
you and your girlfriend came over, and I was like, what do you think? And you were like, oh yeah. Yeah. And then so that encouraged me. And then so we started sequencing that, but then the whole last suite came from this one loop, Jason, that I was using as a encore on my whole last tour. And I would have my tape deck there, and I would play this loop just to at least do something with a loop after the priestess's laptop show with the smoke and mirrors and standing perfectly still. And then, do this thing. But I was playing it at a slower speed, and it was effective and people loved it and everything. But then Preston was here, and we got in the studio, and I pulled it out, and I was changing the speeds on my old Norelcos, these big old giant flatbed reel-to-reels that I love, that I always started with, and I still have one that works. I've got a couple of broken ones, got tons of broken shit around here, but
a lot of broken stuff.
Lots of broken.
That's kind of how we roll.
We got tons of broken shit. But anyway, so Preston got, like we said, everything all rigged up into the Ableton system, which I don't even know how to run anymore because it's so sophisticated. So that's why he's made himself invaluable to me. And I'm so happy. But all I had to do was work that tape loop and try some different stuff with it live. And he got it nicely recorded, good levels and everything right in there. Turned the tape upside down and got some backwards shit. And so, it just changed the speed, we just nailed it in one session. Then it was like, okay, now that we've got a record.
Oh, I mean, as soon as he started playing, he had like 4 loops for that. And it was actually 2 performances he did that ended up becoming one performance that got blended together, which is that whole suite. But it was just, as soon as I heard it, he was just like, let's fuck around for a second. And then like he put on a loop, and it was just like, and sometimes like, because there's a lot of loops, a lot of canisters of loops, and we've dug through many times before,
Yeah, sometimes it's like, nah, there's a lot of garbage, it's not everything is good.
Or repeat things or like from records past, that are sitting around.
Oops.
But like, No, but we just sift through. But then we heard this one. It was just like we both fucking, our heads just blew off. So it was kind of like, and whenever I'm over and he's doing that, and if it blows my mind, I'm just like, this is it. This is fucking it. Like,
yeah.
And I mean,
Well,
he's
Jamie's the same way.
Yeah.
One time, Jason, when El Camino Real.
yeah.
Do you know that one? It's like driving through the desert. If you want a soundtrack to drive through the desert, that's the one. But it's sweltering, just like
desert vibes.
What do they call those mirages in the desert? Fata Morgana or something.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, that was one loop, and I had found this thing, and I had it on the Norelco and in our old house, and Jamie came home from work, and I was listening to it.
This was way before I was in the picture.
Yeah, this is whenever the year that came out, 2008 maybe, or something like that, maybe before that. But he comes in. I'm sitting outside smoking. He comes out there with these big blue eyes. What is that? I'm like, it's my new piece. Well, turn it off. Have you recorded it?
Oh yeah.
No. Well, do it before it disintegrates. I was like, okay. So I did it the next day, and he's awesome, because actually that one at a performance at it was a big festival in California, in Saratoga, California. It was called the Bleeding Edge Festival. It was curated by Robert Crouch and Ed Pituto. And it was me and Matt Mose and Richard Chartier and a bunch of other people in this beautiful mansion that used to be a governor's mansion outside of San Francisco. And I drove there from LA, and I drove on the 101, which is called El Camino Real, and listened to it all the way there on like a CDR. And I did an installation in this solarium room of this mansion. It was really beautiful, giant sunroom. And I had one of the Norelcos there playing the loop. And then I had all of these really beautiful little 60s. I had a whole bunch of these little matching 60s turquoise and white transistor radios. And I just placed them around in the lattice walls in sort of a little design and put them on different staticky channels and stuff for the installation. And then I had to do a concert in the auditorium. And while I was doing the concert, the tape disintegrated, which that wasn't recorded. So at least we got that all done before that happened.
Yeah, totally. It's like, but it's cool. And I feel so honored and privileged that, Billy wants to have me around when he's about to fuck around with some tape loops, because I can sit there and be like, bitch, we're doing this right the fuck now.
That's why you're here, bitch. Cause the mic is always on.
And I mean, even since we've been working together, some of those, it's interesting, like, disintegration.
Preston recorded me doing Vivian and Ondine live.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, that wasn't me. That was no.
Not Vivian and Ondine. Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
Yes, you did.
No, I started working with you on Cascade. We did Cascade.
Oh, that was difficult.
We did Shadow in Time.
Sounded so easy, but we couldn't get it right. It was so crunchy.
We did On Time, Out of Time. We did Lamentations together. We did some of the record with you and Lawrence.
You did?
No, I didn't do Vivian and Ondine. That was before I was in the picture.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I did it by myself? Can't believe it. I can't do anything by myself anymore.
That's not true.
I can't.
Billy plays himself down sometimes.
Mama.
He knows how to throw down on in the timeline on the computer too, but
not anymore. Bobby Gentry's one of my favorites. I've been listening to her huge box set all day long. Love her. Genius. Composer, producer, just songwriter, whatever. Her most famous first hit, which took the Beatles off the top of the charts, Ode to Billy Joe, such a melancholy song in 1968. I think in the third verse, there's a lyric, and Mama just don't want to do much of anything anymore. And that's pretty much where I am right now. I'm done, honey.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, obviously Lamentations is the Sparkle Division record is a big mood, and then so is Lamentations, obviously, but a very contrasting one. I guess the question that I kind of tried to avoid the whole talk, 'cause I didn't want to just have it be a bummer, and it hasn't been at all, though, was the fact that the Disintegration Loops, is obviously associated with one of the most apocalyptic moments in the history of the U.S., at 9/11. And now you've got this new record arriving in the midst of another pretty bad moment. And I wondered how that felt.
Much worse. Well, you do what you have to do, and you say what you have to say, and you gotta do it. What needs to be done. So, I'm praying that we can get through this. I mean, Ruth Bader Ginsburg just died last night. This is horrible. God bless her. What a wonderful champion of women's rights. I mean, I don't think people even understand how many things she did for women. Without her, they couldn't get a mortgage. They couldn't have their own bank account with their unless their husband co-signed. They couldn't,
right.
If they were pregnant, they couldn't work. If they were married, they pretty much, okay, bye-bye. So many things.
Yeah, it's felt, I mean, even for a minute there with the Sparkle Division too, I was kind of just like, everything, all these things have been scheduled for this year, and then just shit literally every moment hitting the fan in every fucking worst, terrible, fascist, fucking most fucked up way. And like, I don't know. I was just like, damn, this feels like really weird that it's coming out right now. But also at the same time, I do feel like
everybody needs to party.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, exactly. Like music's still healing, even if everything going on around us is garbage. Like music is still I don't know. I find it to be healing. Music fucking, saves my life every goddamn day.
Right.
But,
there's Sparkle Division is pure fun and joy. There's lots of joy in there. We both enjoyed doing it, even though it wasn't what either of us was doing. But it was so interesting, and it just kept being born, So it turned into something super fun, and I'm very proud of it. The Lamentations, I'm very proud of that as well. It's just what needs to be done at this time, and everything was delayed because of the pandemic. I don't know if the fans know this, but obviously all the venues, all of our colleagues in every theater, every small venue, everywhere, all the support networks, all the people working in bars and clubs, all the musicians, we've been fucked since, March 12th. Everything was canceled. My biggest tour of my life this year was canceled on March 12th. I was going to do a 20-date United States tour. I've never done anything like that. I was not looking forward to it. And and then a whole European tour. So anyway, that's all not happening. But just been sitting thinking about all my colleagues and friends they didn't get any PPE or whatever you call it, and
Right.
I mean, I'm managing to get a little bit of unemployment, which is great. And I'm lucky because I did everything by the seat of my pants, and I held on to my publishing. So,
yeah.
So I'm, by the grace of God, able to skim by and pay my mortgage payment and pay my bills with my mechanicals and with my publishing royalties. So, I'm really lucky. A lot of people aren't that lucky. And people, all of my wonderful colleagues, when I go on the road, you go to fly 12 hours or 15 hours to a place. The next day, you got to be at 5 o'clock in a sound check in a venue with all the kids you don't know. And you meet everybody, try to remember their names and talk to them. And you've got 1 hour to find the sound frequency of this room, whatever it is. If it's a big theater or a small club or whatever, find out where the rattles are, find out what frequencies need to be, sort of finessed and everything like that, so that the show can be really great. And also, you're in there in an empty room. So it's going to be different when the crowd is there. So you have to count on your sound guy or girl to know what it's going to be like. And so you have this really intense, wonderful thing where you do this and you don't know what's going to happen. And then you might get, a few minutes to talk to the lighting designer, and, hopefully they've gone with your plan you sent and, got the smoke and mirrors and everything you wanted. And if not, well, we'd make other plans and change it. And then you just do it. And then the next day you go and do it again somewhere else. And I love all those people. They've always been so good to me, and it's sad.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got a song on the record called "Please, This Shit Has Got to Stop." So I suppose
that's about all of it, honey. That's about all of it. The patriarchy, the greed, the fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Well, that's just got to stop. And
that's
I guess it's
Earth.
I second that.
To me, that's Mother Earth singing.
I second that.
That's Mother Earth singing that track, girl.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to tap into that. And Lamentations, in addition to the Sparkle Division record, two incredible examples of the work that you two are doing together. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to speak with me about it.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Aquarium Drunkard Transmissions podcast. I'm your host, Jason P. Woodbury. I write and produce the show. Our audio is edited by Andrew Horton. Michael Krasner records supplemental audio. Jonathan Mark Walls does video production. Art by D. Norson and Heavy Hills. Executive producer and guru, Justin Gage. If you enjoyed our show, please share it with a friend. Let them know they can get it wherever they listen to podcasts and direct from Aquarium Drunkard. If you want to take your support a step further, check us out over on Patreon. Transmissions airs every Wednesday with bonus drops when we feel like it. We'll be back next week with another strange talk for these strange times.